Good. Well, let's get started. If you have your Bibles, we'll start in chapter 1. While you are turning there, I'll just tell you, I'll just start with as thick of a reality check on this subject as I know how to start with you. In Genesis chapter 1, we find out that God is wanting to glorify himself in creation. So he just begins to create. That's what he does. He sits in heaven. He says, I'm going to create a universe. The angels ask him what a universe is. And he says, universe. And bam, there it is. And then he says, I'm going to fill this thing with planets and stars. And so he just starts doing that. And then he says here on this specific planet, I'm going to do the whole deal. I'm going to glorify my name in this massive way. And he creates man. The scriptures say that he scoops up the dirt out of the ground and he shapes man. And let me just be real honest with you. I'm not trying to be crass. I'm just trying to be honest. As he shapes the man, he puts on the man a penis. Probably the first time you ever heard that word in here, but he puts on the man a penis. Wasn't the devil. Devil didn't sneak in. God didn't mold the man mostly. Go to the kitchen to get something. The devil run him like, bam, all right. I will lead this fool the rest of his life now. That's not how it went down. It's not how it happened. He simply, God put the penis on the man. He put the testicles on the man. He filled the testicles with sperm. He created the tissue, some that would expand, some that would secrete. He filled the man with testosterone that would drive the whole process. This has been innately and from the beginning God's idea. And then he sends the man out filled with testosterone, just buck naked, all right? And the guy walks through all creation and he looks at all the animals and he names every one of them. All right, he names all the animals, and then both God and man realize it's not good for this guy to be alone. Now, I want to point something out. God's the one that created and wired this whole thing, and from the beginning, sin hadn't even entered the world yet, and God's going, it's not good for this guy to be alone. So he puts the man out, pulls a rib out, and shapes the woman. And as he shapes the woman, he gives her breasts, he gives her rounder hips, he puts the vagina on and on I could go, all right? He builds her out. It was not the devil's idea, not the devil's plan. He didn't sneak in there. This is all God's. Adam comes to, he looks at the woman, and here's one of my favorite parts. Literally, all of Genesis is this kind of alliteration, this kind of little rhyme and reason dance that it's occurring. But when Adam wakes up and sees the woman, the whole literary form shifts, and he basically begins to sing, all right? So you've got him basically going camel, a donkey, horse, fish, woman, all right? And all of a sudden, he sees the woman and it's changed. And he names the woman, basically what it means in Hebrew is out of me or mine. I thought that was profound. So he basically names all the animals and then sees the woman and goes, mine. All right? Now, from that moment on, well, and it's only going to last 2 chapters, but God, what a great 2 chapters. He says that the man and the woman are in the garden naked and unashamed. God, what a great verse. Now, he commands the man and the woman, all right? One of the first commands to both of them, be fruitful and multiply. Now you know how that happens, right? All right, so sex wasn't some evolutionary happening. It wasn't like, once again, God went back to the kitchen to check on whatever he put on the microwave and then came back, was like, whoa, get off her, what in the me? No! This is not my plan. No, this is God's deal. Be fruitful and multiply. Be fruitful and multiply. Enjoy one another. This is, all right, this whole thing is God's, all right? So let me be really honest with you from the beginning. This is why this is so important. When God created the universe, he created it to function rhythmically. He created it to ebb and flow in a way that both brings our joy and his glory. God is not glorified in our begrudging submission to rules. Are you tracking with that? God is not glorified when he says, you'll do what I say or I'll blow you to kingdom come. You'll do what I say or I'll kill you. You do what I say or I'll condemn you to hell. This is not the essence of the gospel even to begin with, but God is most glorified in our enjoyment of him. All right? And so when he designs the world to rhythmically function, he designs man and woman and sex to work rhythmically in such a way that men and women experience the deepest amount of joy possible while at the same time glorifying him at the highest level possible. But chapter 3 happens, right? Yeah, I mean, we get 2 chapters of that. It's a really beautiful 2 chapters. Then it just all goes bad. We find out in chapter 3, sin enters into the world. And when it enters into the world, let's stay with this rhythmic idea. It fractures the harmony, fractures the rhythm. Think of a really loud electric guitar that's not playing right in a band. It fractures that rhythm. And everything that was meant to be beautiful and good and perfect and for our joy begins to kill us. I'll give you some examples. Wine, which the scriptures say are from the Lord and for his people to enjoy, all of a sudden becomes alcoholism. Food, which is from the Lord and given to mankind by the Lord for the enjoyment of food, so that as we put that fajita in our mouth and ate it, we would be like, sweet Jesus be praised, all right? That you could put all these things together to taste like this, praise your name, all right? So that even whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, that you would glorify God. Yeah, okay, but now food becomes gluttony. It starts to kill us, all right? And sex, which was meant to bring intimacy and a bonding in the soul. Do you know the Hebrew word for sex, dode, literally translates a mingling of souls? God, that's a great word, all right? But for us, it's become something very different. It's caused a lot of pain, a lot of sorrow, a lot of heartache, a lot of frustration, and I could go on and on and on here. So before we even get into Song of Solomon, which is going to be tremendous, this is where we have to begin. This whole thing is God's idea. And so here's what I would tell you, that God is reconciling the earth back to himself through Jesus Christ, including sex and relationships, and gave us Song of Solomon as a guide there. And so we're digging into this book tonight and tomorrow to get back into that rhythm that God created so that in relationships and in sex, the fullest amount of joy and pleasure might be experienced so that God might be glorified, exalted, and worshiped at the highest level. That's what we're doing here. That's what we're doing here tonight. All right? Now, what I've noticed, and this is how we'll start this book off, what I've noticed is that if you look at young men and young women, I mean really, let's not even call them women and men. If you look at little boys and little girls, from about 1 to 3, they're not even aware of one another. And what I mean by that is you can put a Barbie. My 2-year-old son, he loves to play with my daughter's Barbies. All right, he grabs them and he runs around with them. And I'm not panicked yet. All right, he plays with them and runs around with them. My daughter will pick up his trucks and play with the trucks. And so for the first few years, there doesn't seem to be any real separation in the sexes. But something happens, and it happens at different ages, usually around 2nd or 3rd grade. They start to become very, very aware that they're different. And when that happens, they split off, all right? They split off, and the little girls run with the little girls, and the little boys run with the little boys, and they shove each other and fight and climb stuff and try to catch stuff on fire unless we can catch them. And these girls come over here and make any 2 inanimate objects they can pick up, friends, right? And that's what happens. The boys build stuff and knock it over, and the girls create relationships. And then what happens is they kind of think one another is gross. They don't really not. Every once in a while, you'll have the one guy run across and jack the girl in the back and run off, which is your first, hey, something's changing here, all right, because that's 4th grade for I love you, all right, marry me. And that kind of thing starts happening, and then it happens anywhere really between 5th grade and 8th or 9th grade, depending on what kind of game you have, but I call it the day of Epiphany. It's just this day of Epiphany. I mean, they've been gross to you this whole time. You woke up that morning for school. You put on your kicks. You got dressed. You threw on your backpack. You saw your boys, and as you're walking to your crew of guys, you see her, and now all of a sudden she's not gross anymore. All of a sudden she's not. All of a sudden you've got to have one, all right? And this is day of Epiphany, all right? Where up until this moment, I don't care, I don't want anything to do with it, and now all of a sudden I have to get one of those, and all these changes began to occur. And I did youth ministry for 10 years, And I'm telling you, there is a marked change between a 7th grader and a 9th grader. You get 100 7th graders together for 3 days. By the end of that 3rd day, it smells like body odor and obsession, all right? Body odor and cologne, just dirty. You start getting 9th and 10th grade, all of a sudden we're taking a shower. All of a sudden we're combing our hair, or at least we're making it look like we didn't, all right? For hours. I don't care. I don't care at all. All right? All of a sudden, we care about the kind of clothes we're wearing. All of a sudden, what happened? The day of Epiphany happened. Now it does matter. We do care what she thinks. We do care what we smell like. We do care what we're wearing. Well, okay, it sure wasn't like that for a while. My 4-year-old daughter, she already cares what she wears. No, that one. I don't like those shoes. We don't get that stuff from my son. My son's like, eat. A lot of ladies in here are like, things do not change very much from 2nd grade on. Yeah, so you've got this day of Epiphany, and from this day forward, that day of Epiphany, wherever it happened, we began, specifically the male, designed by God to pursue. All right, we were created, designed by God to pursue. I know it's 07, it doesn't always happen that way, but designed by God to pursue. In fact, Ephesians 5 would say that he put it in the man's heart to pursue the woman. And so man begins to pursue. And I know this is church, so we lie a lot, and we talk a lot about how we were attracted to personality and how much they love Jesus, and I'm just calling you a liar, outright a liar, all right? That might happen, and that might be another deal, but it doesn't happen across the room. You don't look across the room and go, look at the Jesus on her, awesome, all right? Or look at how the Holy Spirit has filled out those jeans. I mean, it just didn't. That's not how it happens, all right? It's just not how it happens. There is a physical attraction that occurs, but I don't think I need to talk a lot about that, all right? Because and honestly, Song of Solomon didn't talk a lot about it. It's a given. We're going to be physically attracted as one of the primary, and listen, you should be, right? I mean, you can teach holiness, but hotness is either there or it's not, all right? So what I want to do is talk about what happens then. Because I think that's where Solomon starts teaching us, is what happens after that moment that we look across the room and we go, that's attractive. After we look across the room and do that little prayer for you church folk, yes, Lord, that's it. Thank you. You've heard my cry. I'm moving in, all right? So what happens in that moment? What happens after that? All right, so let's look at it. We've got to move quick. We'll almost hit through 3 chapters. That's why I love to get to the wedding and the honeymoon night, because it's just 1 chapter, but there's tons of stuff we have to look through. Song of Solomon, chapter 1. We'll pick it up in verse 2. This is the way you start a book right here. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is better than wine. That's great stuff. All right? Your anointing oils are fragrant. Listen to this. Your name is oil poured out. Therefore, virgins love you. Draw me after you. Let us run, for the king has brought me into his chamber. So, I'll never deny that the physical attraction between a man and a woman, it's an important deal, all right? It's an important deal, but it can't stop there. It can't stop there. And there has been more sorrow and more pain and more cries of angst that has occurred in the lives of men and women who pursued physical attraction alone. And Solomon says, this thing going on between him and his girls here, one of the things she says right out of the gate is, your name is like oil, all right? Your name, when it's poured out, people respect it, they love it. You have a character that's known. In fact, one of the things she said here is the virgins love you. They love you. You know what this means? That as her friends are finding out that she's dating this guy, none of them are going, be careful, girl. Be careful. Nobody's telling a story. Nobody's going, listen, his last girlfriend, Sarah, let me tell you how it ended. Let me tell you how it went. Tell you how that thing ended up. No, he's a good guy if you want to suffer. No, I mean, none of that happened. None of that happened. I mean, when she says here's who I'm after. Here's who's after me. The virgins, her crew, they're almost jealous. They love him. They're like, are you serious? He asks you, are you serious? So he's got character. And I think this is a huge issue, this idea of name, this idea of who this person is. It has to go beyond attraction. It has to very, 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 very quickly move past physical attraction. All right? And where men and women are immature, and where men and women have been wounded deeply and don't have the ability to do that, they pile sorrow upon sorrow upon sorrow upon sorrow. When you, and this is one that the ladies do much more than the men, when that man has a long history of devastation, but you become the savior, I am going to be Jesus to this cat. His name is Dirt. Everyone thinks he's a dog. 4 people are trying to kill him. But you know what? I'm going to love him so well. I'm going to love him so good. He will leave all his dog days behind him. Okay, that's absurd. Let me just be really, really quick with you. And this is a deep theological truth, but I'm going to throw it out there and hope it sticks. We don't have a lot of time to get into it. You're not Jesus. Selah. I'm going to drink my water. Selah. In the Psalms, that means think about it. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah, and I'm telling you, when you start going, I can fix them. I can fix that. I can change that. Or almost all the marital issues we have to deal with at the Village, almost always fire up. They knew it was there when they were dating, but both of them thought they could fix it after. And you know, the good news is some of them do, but not after an unbelievable amount of pain, disappointment, frustration, anger. Yeah, I think this issue of characters is unbelievably huge issue. Name, what's in their name? What are they known for? What are they known as? What are they, this is a big deal, right? But it moves past that. Look down to 5. This is her still. I love this one. I am very dark but lovely, O daughters of Jerusalem, like the tents of Kedar, like the curtains of Solomon. Do not gaze at me because I am dark, because the sun has looked upon me. My mother's sons were angry with me. They made me keeper of the vineyards, but my own vineyard I have not kept. Tell me, you whom my soul loves, where you pasture your flock, where you make it lay down at noon. For why should I be like the one who veils herself besides the flock of your companions? All right, so let me chat here a little bit. What's happening here is she's saying that my outside beauty has somewhat been affected because I've had to work in the vineyards. I've had to provide for my family. There's been some things that have gone wrong. We have some historic family issues. Anyone? Anyone? Okay, a lot of liars in here tonight. All right. I've had some historic family issues. I've had some issues with my brother. They were my authority. I had to submit to my brothers. And I went out and I worked the fields. All right, so here's what we've got. You've got character taking place. What's in a name, but now we're seeing in her an unreal amount of depth. I mean, she is not the girl that has spent all her time getting ready, getting dressed, getting pretty, making her body look perfect, making her face look perfect, making her hair look perfect, making her clothes look perfect, and that's it. No, there's a depth to her. She knows submission, doesn't she? Her brothers who were angry with her sent her into the field. Where'd she go? The field. She knows submission. She has a belief that there's something bigger than her, that there's a family unit that's more important than just her skin. And so she's gone out and she said, for the good of the family, for the good of the whole, I'll sacrifice. I mean, this is a woman who's got some depth. She's got some depth. And then I love this part. And this, I think, flies in the face of most evangelical thought on dating. All right? Here's what she asked him. Hey, where do you, like on Friday night, where are you going to be pasturing your flocks? I mean, I might be there. I don't know. Like this Friday, you going to pasture your flock somewhere? All right, now let me say this, because I think some stuff happens in the evangelical world that I just laugh at. Like on college campuses and in singles groups all over the country, what we're told, specifically the young ladies, is that if they'll be content, God will give them a man. And so in the end, what you have is a bunch of girls pretending to be content so that God will send them a man. All right? I don't care if he sends me a man or not. Where is he? I just said that. Where is he? You are enough for me, Father. Where is he at? Where are you, baby? Yeah. Okay, let me say this. God designed us to get married. There's nothing wrong with wanting it. And any preacher, pastor, or somebody who take the Bible and tell you it's sinful to want to be married, it's absurd. It's absurd. It's what you were crib. Now, are some of you going to be single? Absolutely. There's no doubt that the Scripture says some of you have what somehow we've started calling the gift. All right? Most of us want to take the gift back, return it. There's been a mistake. All right? I burn with passion. There's been an error. It's been a horrible, horrible error. And then you've got this other thing that happens to the guys where all of a sudden they start going, I'm just going to wait for the Lord to bring her to me. Just going to wait for the Lord to bring her. I mean, is there any other area of life that they do that in? They sure don't do that with dinner. And I was sitting on the couch going, I sure am hungry. Please, Lord, bring me dinner. No, they don't. Where do they go? In the kitchen. Yeah. And so I don't think there's anything wrong once you have spotted and once you begin to see that there is a name, once you begin to see that there is depth, there doesn't appear, specifically in this story, to be anything wrong with going, I want to cross paths with that. I want to cross paths with that. So he's on the east side of the hill Friday at 7:30? That's crazy, because that's where I'm going to be. I had some girls that we were going to walk out there. So it doesn't seem like there's anything wrong here with going, no, that's right and that's good, and he's what I want or she's what I want, and this is what you've got happening. At this point, you've got no date, you've got a physical attraction, right? Because you don't say, let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth to someone you're not, you think's got jacked up lips, all right? You see, so you go, oh, I want those lips on me, all right? And then all of a sudden you're going, okay, but wait a minute, listen, anytime I mention his name, anytime I'm with my girls and I go mention his name, everybody goes, gangbusters and going, this guy is legit. And then I've watched her, I've watched how she's lived her life. She walks in a depth that goes well beyond physical beauty. There's something better there than just physical beauty. Now, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with them trying to cross paths, with them pursuing. Yeah. Now, let me tell you, and I'll say this, and I know some of you will disagree. This isn't out of Song of Solomon. This is just what I honestly believe. After 16 years of ministry, most of which have to do with 18 to 30-year-olds. Village Church is hopelessly young, and this is one of those things we deal with all the time. I don't think you have any business. I don't think you have any business dating if you don't know what you want and haven't defined what you're looking for and haven't defined what you're willing to wait on. If you haven't said, I'm willing to wait on this type of man, if you haven't said, this is the kind of woman I want to date, then I think you're really foolish for dating. You're playing with some things that in the end could blow you to kingdom come. And some of you know this to be true as for fact. I could give you story after story after story after story of how this has come true. And so I think you've got to go, okay, what is it that I'm willing to wait on? What is it that I'm after? What do I want when all's said and done? And I can't tell you how often it's gone really bad for people who haven't thought through that and found somebody a little bit attractive and they had a little bit of a good name and they seem to have a little bit of depth, but they haven't thought through what I want in the end. Do you want a man that actively engages your children to help them, raise them into the maturity of the Lord? Yeah, I think you do. I think that's a conversation that you need to have. You need to know. You need to go, I'm looking for that kind of man. And then you know where to hunt, You want that kind of man? Go start working in the children's ministry, all right? Camoed up, looking for your prey, all right? I think that's legit stuff. I don't think you have any business dating if you haven't thought through those things. It's a weird thing to gamble the heart. Now, you got to do it. You've got to gamble the heart. You don't ever get intimacy if you won't roll the dice on the heart. But to roll it that early in the game, I think that's crazy. To bet everything you have on a game you don't understand yet? Huh? I mean, that's insane. It's insane. You'll lose every time. All right. So here's what happens. They meet. There's this attraction thing. She's like, where's your flocks going to be? She shows up, and they start going out a little bit. All right? Not serious yet, but they start going out a little bit. And there are these things that start happening as they date that are pretty profound.